This is Eric Rohn from R&B Painting,
Okay.
and we guarantee you quality service. And you can reach me on www.rnb-painting.com, or you can follow me on Facebook at R&B Painting.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What got you, where are you from, your area, and things that got you into painting?
Well, I'm originally from the District of Columbia. Um, I started painting at the age of 13. If you're not familiar with um, the Marion Barry era,
Yes.
where public housing used to be only in complexes, and Marion Barry is the one who started public housing,
Yes.
where you could buy, which you could actually have a voucher and use it in a public house.
Right.
And my uncle was the painter for Marion Barry, and he used to take me around at the age of 13 and teach me, the little ins and outs on back rolling, how to cut, how to tape, and things of that nature. And that's where I originally learned how to paint.
Wow, that's amazing because I was with the Man Bay Youth Leadership too, and we learned so much from him, and I really miss him. So that's very interesting. I would never have known that. Wow. Okay, so tell us some more because your info is very interesting.
Yeah, so some time went by. I really didn't pursue it. What I did was I had ventured out to do some other things. And one day I was home and I just painted two rooms in my house.
Oh wow.
Now I had two jobs. I had a part-time, full-time job, and it was in pharmacy. So
Okay.
before I pursued painting, I was had a pretty decent job,
Okay.
and and I was also going to school, taking up radiology at Peachy Community College.
Okay.
And as I started, pursuing the career as a radiology tech, I began to paint more,
Okay.
and I was kind of doing it on the side for extra income. Wasn't nothing serious, and until I realized that I had a lot of talent and a lot of skills when it came down to painting. And I continued to do it, and after some time went by, I realized how good I was, and I sat down and I talked to my wife, and I said, "Hey, look, I really think I can pursue this." And of course, we got to make sure we can pay these bills, and you know
Right.
how that go,
Right.
right?
Right.
And what I decided to do was I decided to drop out of school because I was very serious about it because I had what you call vision. And as
Okay.
long as you have vision in
Right.
anything, you can, and you put God first, you
Yes.
can get there.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
I had vision, and I didn't quite know where I wanted to go with it, but I know that because of my skills and what I had to offer, that I was going to be good at it. And I continued to have the two jobs, and it had gotten so overwhelming with my clients that I started to lose money because if you're working a part-time and a full-time job, you are not able to meet, with people wanted the business, and I wasn't able to meet that. So I had to make another decision. But before I made the decision, I had to make it legit, with the articles of organization, the
Right.
insurance, the
Right.
tax ID, and all of that. And once I did that, I continued to do it on the side. And after I started to lose money, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to try this.
Full time.
And I quit my full time job, but I'm the kind of guy that I play safe. So I quit my full time job and I
Kept the part.
kept the part time.
Yes.
Because,
Because you still gotta
bills
have
got
that
right,
income.
and I didn't know what
Right.
to expect,
Right.
when it came down to trying to pursue this business.
Yes.
And of course, my bills still have to be paid.
Yes.
And I stepped out on faith, um, and things went well. To the point to where it gotten to the point where I still started to lose money even with the part-time job. So, I once again sat down with my wife and decided to have a conversation with her
Right.
and say, you know what, I want to make this something that I do
And God was
for a
like, if
living.
you don't come on and just stick to it and do it full time, yeah, you're gonna keep on
Yes,
losing money.
yes, and I think that everyone has a talent.
Yes.
And for me, this is just for me. I think that everybody should own a business
Yes.
because God gives everyone a talent, and you have to find what that talent is. And if you don't, if you find what that talent is, the important thing in business is you have to always make the customer the most
Happy.
important person
Yes.
and make them happy. So I
Wow.
had to learn that over the years. It was not something and I learned on the fly. I didn't take any, courses or anything, or I had to go through some pitfalls in terms of
Of course, yes. The
learning.
first, what is it? The first 3 years,
Yes.
it's kind of like okay, and then the next 3 years, woo
Hmm.
woo, and then the years after that, oh my God. So yes, I've
Yes.
learned that. Hmm.
Yes, and we talking about the pitfalls, the ebb and flows, because in business it's not always going to be you're going to be always busy and making a lot of money.
Right,
Sometimes there's a law,
right,
and you
right.
have to know how to deal with that law too as
Exactly.
well. So those are some of the things I had to learn.
Okay.
So
Wow. Well, I dibble and dabble, and I've gotten now to a little point. I can paint real good, at least I think so. Sometimes when I'm going through depression, I'll just start painting. That helps me. So what are the basics like? When does somebody say, "Oh, I think this wall needs to be painted"? Is it because does it look um, like if the white looks tan? What does somebody could be looking at their walls now saying, does these walls need to be painted? When would somebody know to call, excuse me, and say, oh, I need my walls painted?
well, it's up to the individual. It depends on what you're looking for in your house.
Okay.
I mean, and it depends on how the last person painted it. Paint usually lasts for 13, 14 years
Oh,
if
okay.
painted properly.
Right. Or unless you don't have kids. If you have
Unless you don't
kids,
have kids, right?
yeah.
Things of that nature, or you have what you call high traffic areas
Hmm.
in your property where when you first come in your door, it's considered a high traffic area.
Right.
That area is more likely to get dirty more than you're up in your room because everybody's
Right.
not going to be in your room.
Exactly.
So when you see it, um, it's up to the person who decides because everybody lives differently. Like something that you feel that may need painted, I may not feel like it don't need painted. It depends on who you are.
Right.
So to answer your question, it's up to the individual.
Okay. Now, do you just paint like a gray wall and a blue wall? Are you more artistic where you do the lines and the stencils? How artsy crafty are you when it comes down to painting?
Well, what I don't do is I don't do designs.
Okay.
Um, I'm just a painter, and the reason why I don't do designs because I'm so busy that it's really you have to be really technically taping and all of
Right.
that when you do the lines.
So would you be? It's, let's just say if I just have a basic wall and I want some white with lines, would you be doing that? Could you do if the job is small? Would you do it or?
Well, I could do it,
Hmm.
but what I usually do when it comes down to something different is an accent wall.
Okay.
And what an accent wall is, if you do three walls white, you can do that wall gray. Actually, this is an accent wall behind
Right.
us, and that's typically kind of easy to do. And the reason why I say I don't do designs because usually I'm booked. I'm
Right.
usually like 3 months booked,
Wow.
and it takes time to do all that. And my thing
Wow.
is, I can
Three
refer you.
months.
Yes, I can
Wow.
refer you to someone that can possibly do that for you,
Okay.
but that's just something that I don't do.
So when somebody's and I'm not gonna knock anybody's house, but I went to somebody's house the other day and I could see the paint peeling. Does that mean that they need to get their place painted? Like
Yes,
it's like chipping away?
yes,
Oh
yes.
wow.
And the only way
Okay.
to fix that, you have to do what you call some patchwork.
Okay.
And a lot of times when you do patch, it's not when you do the first coat of patch and you sand it down, you do what you call a skim, and you can pull it, which means you can have it nice and tight in order to skim it down, in order to paint that. So before you can actually paint that wall, you have to actually patch it and fix it
Sand it.
first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
because if you paint over top of that, those little, whatever peeled off,
Right.
you're gonna actually see that.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So give us a good day of painting and give us a bad day. Just think back. Excuse me. I just got over a slight cold. Give us a bad painting experience that you've had and give us a good experience.
Well, good experience I've had was, I've done some work that for a company that was remodeling government properties,
Okay.
and each and every time they gave me a property was pretty much a whole house. And what they do is they go in and they decide whether or not they want to just do the base of the wall. And when I say base of the wall, I mean just no trim.
Okay, just the main
Right,
part.
and it's all predicated on what the person did who left the house and
Right,
just left it
exactly.
abandoned.
Right.
So it may not need the whole
Entire
entire
place painted.
everything trim and everything,
Right.
but for the most part, they would paint the whole entire house. They just did what they had to do in order to sell it.
Right.
So I was linked up with that particular company, and it was like job after job after job after job. Of course, then what that means that the workflow, and that means the money was coming in. A bad day was, but actually I just experienced it this year for the very first time.
Okay.
And I think I actually kind of got hit by the government shutdown,
Okay.
which I never thought I would actually be affected by.
I
that.
never thought it would affect me either, but it damn near affect everybody.
Yes, yes. And what happened was I'm usually kind of slow around Christmas time. That's the only month that I'm not
Right.
really. But by that time, I'm ready to take a vacation anyway.
Yes.
Right. So.
Especially if you 3 months booked.
Right.
And ladies and
Right.
gentlemen, he said three, not 1 month, but 3 months booked.
Yes, and that's all due to God.
Right.
And I usually start getting my calls. Excuse me. By January the 1st.
Okay.
And I still was doing work, for different clients, but it wasn't as as what I'm used to getting, as lucrative, right?
Phone calls
right.
constantly every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So I never got discouraged because I've always been financially set, and I always make sure that I'm financially set, such that that
Something
if that
happens.
does happen, and that's what you call as ebb and flows.
Yes.
And in business, you have to understand that it's not always going to be business, as I
No.
stated earlier, when we first started. So that was one of the things that I first time ever experiencing that. Even when I first started, I was really making money.
Yes.
And the only thing I could equate it to is the fact that it was a government shutdown, because I never experienced it before, and I've actually been since 2007.
Yeah. With my business, recently just got, they just caught me up with the checks that they owed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my goodness. And people always say, oh, well, you got money X, Y, and Z. I see you with this and that. But remember, I worked for the government before I even started any of my businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I said, don't look at what I have.
Mm-hmm.
But that shouldn't even make anybody any difference. But yes, that government shutdown was something else. Yes. So I can see why that would be a bad. So when people call you, what do you normally do? What's your routine? You knock on the door and then you go from where?
Well, when they call me, the first thing I do is I don't get into what they need done, because I always do estimates, and my estimates are free.
Okay.
And I like to show up at your house, because this is what a lot of people don't understand with painting. You say, hey, a lot of people call me and say, well, I have a room that, I got 2 bedrooms, and how much would it cost over the phone? I can't do that.
No, you
know
can't.
why? Because when I get there, I don't know if there could be patchwork in each room. And rooms are set up, and there are different components in a room.
Right.
You have your doors and your trim. You have your ceiling, and you have your base and your wall. And when you go in there, your ceiling may not need to get painted. If you want it painted, it's up to you. But
Right.
You can save money not painting your ceiling. And most of these newer houses that they're putting up, they're new. So when you go in, they've already. If you just move in a house that you just bought, all you really need is your base of the wall. You just want to add color to your property.
Right.
So a lot of people don't understand, when you over the phone asking me to give you a price, that's very hard to do, because I can't give you a price because I have to come.
Yeah, and that
give you
that gets on me too, because I'm like, well, can you just give me an idea? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't. And I try not to kirk off, because I understand where you're coming from on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then now you're inside the house.
Yes. So I get inside the house, and what I do is I come in, and then we go room by room. And what I do is, as I'm going through, I'll write down each room and what you want in that particular room. And then we'll go through the walkthrough and do the square footage of the room. And then I can either give you the estimate on the site, or it depends on what you need done. I give you the estimate the following.
Now, have you ever started painting somebody's house, or they say, well, okay, I want black and blue, and have you ever said, could you rethink that? Do you ever try to give your own advice to the customer?
Let me tell you an experience I had. I had a customer that I went in, and we were looking through colors. And one thing I don't like to do is I don't like to pick the colors for the customer. And I picked this particular color and painted the whole entire room. She was at work. And then when she walked in the door, she said, I don't like this. So I'm saying, okay. So she held me liable for it. And she said that, you picked the color, so you know what I had to do? I had to paint that room all over again. So that was a bad experience I had. And from that point forward, I said I was never going to pick colors anymore. It's your house. You know what you want. You know what color you want. And I allow you to pick it. I'm just here to paint it.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. Now, what's your crew like?
I have 2 guys that work with me.
And they've been
a
with you
third guy
before?
too as well. But what I usually do is I'll have them come in if I absolutely need it. Like say for instance, if I walked in here, you had two, just say 3 rooms that need to be painted. I don't need them, because of my
You can pretty
technique.
much do it by
Yeah,
yourself.
because I don't tape.
Long.
I don't tape. Tape. I don't tape.
Oh, you don't tape?
I, I
OMG.
paint a whole entire room with no tape.
What? Child, please.
And
I
the
need tape.
only way I tape is if I do an accent wall because it's hard to get
Right, the corners.
going down, this
Right.
up and down a lot. Other than
Wow.
that, I paint a whole entire house without taping.
Oh, wow.
And see what people don't realize, that's the most important part in painting. Because the same way you put that tape up, you have to strategically put that tape up. And then guess what? You have to take the tape down. And when you take the tape down, guess what else happens? You're still going to have to fix it because it's going to bleed through the tape.
Yes, but I'm a taper all the time. Every
Yes.
time I am the taper.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So okay, now I know painting walls. Do you do any like concrete painting, or do you do what they call marble painting? Even though it's still painting, do you do what that is called?
Let me kind of tell you what my company does. We do anything affiliated with painting.
Okay.
Okay, you got decks,
Oh.
you have fences, you have siding. I can
Okay.
paint the exterior of a house, the siding,
Okay.
paint the fences, interior, the rooms, the trim, ceiling,
Wow.
doors, anything that's affiliated with painting.
Okay.
Power washing as well.
Okay.
Um,
So you do the glaze painting too?
I actually have glaze tubs too as well.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Now that's what I need. I have concrete floors, and I'm so sick of the carpet. So yeah, we must talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow, that is like perfect. Well, like I said, having a painting business is very interesting because we were talking outside about how the Spanish people are kind of taking all the jobs. So can you elaborate a little bit? What is your difference, or what is your take with that?
Well, first of all, a lot of times when people think of painting, they think of Spanish guys. There are
All the
very
time.
few good African American painters. And I didn't get into this where I wanted to actually, it's just something I had landed on, and I realized how talented I was.
Okay.
And let me go back to when I was a kid. I used to like to draw. So remember the gift that we talked about that God will bless everybody with? That was my gift.
Okay.
And drawing.
Okay.
And I drew real good when I was, in school.
Okay.
And I used to like to do it. So, when you equate drawing with painting, it's the steady hand.
Right.
So that was my talent
gives
all
it
the
to you,
time. And
okay.
when we talked about it, I was talking about, God gives everybody a gift. You just have to find what that gift is.
Yes.
And I was able to find it, through painting, So back to what we were talking about in terms of, the Spanish guys. A lot of people think painting, they think of the Spanish guys because there are not really a lot of African American painters. People have their own perception of, of who they feel, and it's all up to the individual who they feel that they want to come in their house and to do it. But I think it's a misconception when they say that a lot of the Spanish guys that come in, I'd rather get the Spanish guys
Yeah.
because, to me, and I'm not knocking anyone because I don't have to put anyone down in order for me to
Right.
be a successful person. I'm
Exactly.
successful regardless.
Right.
I just think that it's people say that, but a lot of times when they come into your home, they they just want to hurry up and come in and come out and get out because they chasing the money.
Right.
For me, I think the most important thing for me is to make sure that you're satisfied before I leave, and also what my company offers is the fact that you can always call me and say, "Hey, can you come back?"
Exactly.
With them, they're not coming back.
You
Right.
can't even find that number
And
anymore.
right, so if you have a
Right.
huge house, there's something they're gonna miss. There's no way no one, I don't care what kind of painter they is, gonna come into your entire house and paint it perfect and leave. So with that being said, I'm the guy that you can call and I can come back and say, hey, can you just fix this? I see a couple things that you missed last
Exactly.
week, and I'll find it in my schedule and make sure that I come back to fix that.
Okay. We like that. I tried to put up the black businesses. I'm about black businesses 24/7. I've been knocked down by them, but I've really tried to attempt to give them the first opportunity, and then after that, it's whatever. I take the second or the third person that I should probably pick them the first time, but I always try to go to the blacks.
Yes.
So, okay, give us something that you would give somebody who would like to start a painting business. What would you tell somebody that, hey, Well, somebody should have told me that before I got started. So,
Well, I think with starting a business, period, and particularly paint business, there are rules, and there are what you call entrepreneur rules. The first rule is you have to remain professional at all times. And I had to learn that as one of those things I had to learn as I went along. You have to remain professional at all times. And the second thing is you have to make it about the customer. A lot of people get involved into business and they do it just strictly for the money. And you don't focus on how to make it about the customer, because for me, each house I paint is a gateway to another job. And that's my business card on your wall.
oh wow, yeah, that's
See,
true.
and that's the thing. So if I painted this room and someone walked in here that did not come in here last year, and they looked at this, they're gonna say, "Who did this?"
Right.
You see what I mean? But if my customer service and my attitude is messed up, and you're gonna say, "Oh, he paints good, but he has a bad attitude,"
Attitude.
so you know what's gonna happen? I'm not
Nobody
gonna
want
get
to deal
that
with
job,
that.
right?
Right. Nobody
So
wants to deal with that.
to answer your question, um, any business, but particularly painting, you have to be really particular in what you do, and when you service your customer, make sure that it's about the customer first.
Wow, I don't know what to say. I've been in houses that look, oh my goodness, wow, that looks really nice, and I've been like, well, you said you just got it painted. When did you get it painted? Okay, so I can see the difference.
Hmm.
I was trying to think of something and it just totally left my brain for 1 minute. Give me some more information. I know you told us about how to get in contact with you. Can you give somebody what? Okay, what do you? I mean, I know you can't tell people a budget, but
Hmm.
can you? Do you work with people who, let's just say, I don't know, $100? That's all I have. I just really need this wall painted. Are you able to work with somebody that maybe the wall you would charge them 200? Would you work with people? And I'm not trying to tell people to call you and say do this, but
Yes, tell them to call
okay.
me.
So oh, he said call him anyway. Okay, I will be calling you because I have some walls that need to be painted. Okay, well
Yeah,
that's cool. I like that.
yeah,
I
but
like that about a
but
lot.
to answer your question, no job is too small for me.
Okay.
And the thing is, what I try to get people to understand, when you um, go to the yellow pages, right? And I'm pretty much, this is my company. I have no overhead. So when you look up someone in the yellow pages and you ask them to come to your property to give you an estimate, let me tell you what's going to happen. That quote's going to be really high because the company has to get paid and they have to pay those three guys that they send in. Okay, so you get an estimate from them. So here comes me. I'm able to set the price such that that I can set the price to be way under what they have quoted you,
Right.
because I don't have any overhead.
But they don't use yellow pages no more,
Right.
so it's telling how old
Well,
you. Now, would that be including the paint? And I'm just saying hypothetically, if you did say, okay, I can do this for 100,
mhm.
would that include the paint, or would I have to pick out my own?
It's
Well, I
op-
know because you don't pick out paint colors no more.
well, you can choose the color, right? But it's optional, and I always give the customer that option of what they want to do.
Okay.
Um, of
But
course, if
like
I
between like Bear or Glidden, like
well,
like if you look at somebody's wall, you can say, let's say if I want it to be what is it, semi-gloss
mhm.
or glossy, you may say, well, no, not semi. You wouldn't use glossy. You would use semi-gloss. I know. Was it semi-gloss in kitchens and bathrooms? And
Absolutely, absolutely.
I
That's
can't stand
yes,
flat.
but flat is a better look. But if you want to wipe your walls off, you go with but they have an eggshell
Right.
and they have a satin. Never put semi-gloss throughout your whole entire house. It's too commercial looking. If you ever walked into an office building, you see all the walls are shining. You know why? Because they want to just be able to wipe those walls down.
Yeah.
Because remember, I talked about high traffic area.
Right.
All office buildings are high traffic area because
Right.
so many people come in and out of those buildings all during the course of a week.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to, but in your particularly in your house, kitchens, semi-gloss, and that's if it's enclosed. A lot of houses they're building now, they building with open kitchens. So
Right.
that's why you notice you see flat throughout the whole entire house. You can do that. Speaking of age, if you grew up, when I grew up, we closed the door and went in our kitchen. And have you ever seen where there's a stain in someone's ceiling from cooking so much? Yeah, it's like a grease thing where they fry chicken all the time.
Oh, and it went up to the ceiling?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's like right
wow.
there. Yeah, but the semi-gloss is the
No.
semi-gloss in the kitchen, so you'll be able to wipe that off.
Oh, okay,
That's why.
okay.
So
So everybody would know. Tell the rooms and what's the normal colors to get as of should you put flat in the halls? Can you tell for like the hall, the living room, the dining room? Can you tell what particular? Am I saying it right? What particular color should you put flat, semi-gloss, what's flat, eggshell, or what the other one is? Can you tell people where that should go into each room?
well, this is how it works. Um, you can really choose the texture. That's what they call it. You can choose whatever texture you want. And my suggestion would be not to put semi-gloss throughout the whole entire house. That's just my suggestion because it's too commercial looking, but it's your house.
Right.
Okay, you can choose flat, and I usually tell someone you can choose flat unless you don't have any kids,
Right.
because flat is a texture that you cannot wipe down, and if you wipe, you'll penetrate it and it'll get through. You'll see whatever's on the other side of that wall before you painted it. Satin and eggshell can be wiped down, and it doesn't matter what you put in your house; it's your choice. But semi-gloss goes in the kitchen and in the bathroom,
Okay.
and your trim is going to be in semi-gloss and your baseboards as well. And if you have crown molding, that's going to also be in semi-gloss.
And then the ceiling is flat.
It could be whatever your choice.
Okay.
And I
But
usually,
most of the time it's flat.
well, most of the time, but if you want it satin, it can be satin. It doesn't really matter. I think that that your ceiling texture should be the same texture that you put on your wall.
Okay. Well, I sure wish that somebody had told me this. I can remember when I first got my house over in Fort Lincoln. I bought the Martha Stewart, and it was the sand paint. I said, okay, all I need is one can. I started spreading. I was like, oh my God, I'm not even, and my wall is long. I had to buy 3 cans, and I was at the end of my money. I said, look, this last can's gonna have to thin. So I put some water in it to stretch it, and you can see like, at the beginning of it, like the part behind the door was the part I probably should have did the water stretch. Oh my God! But now I am literally trying to paint over that because I've had that dark brown sand for at least 8 years, and to paint over it, yeah, I'm gonna have to call you. That's low.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to call you now. Oh, another question. How about when you paint the windowsills? Because I have problems with that. Because I put plants in my windowsills, and sometimes I put them in a pot, and then I put the plants, and then you know how the water kind of goes over, and then it's winter time, so they don't buckle, but they kind of get that. So what would you do, or what would you tell somebody for that?
That's the same as your trim,
Okay.
and that's considered the trim too as well, because it's semi-gloss, and whatever stain you get on that, you will be able to wipe that off. Semi-gloss is basically a texture that you want to be able to wipe off, and it's much more shinier than. And anytime you do an exterior job, it's shutters or anything outside, it's always exterior semi-gloss. Because what you want to do is because rain has water in it, acid in it. I'm sorry, it has acid in it,
Okay.
and you want to be out over a period of time. Have you ever seen shutters when you first buy the house? They're nice and colorful, then they start to fade. That's the acid and the rain settling in on those shutters. And if you put flat paint on it, they're more than likely gonna fail. They're gonna start to fade a lot more, a lot quicker than they would if you were semi-gloss because it rolls right off of it.
All right, well, this particular guy, he paints everything. But before we close for today, I want to throw this out to everybody. If you have a business, no matter what type of business it is, please get back at me on the number 4, Janet, Janet, 80 at gmail.com. You can touch me on Facebook, Instagram, at It's Late Night Whispers or It's Gorgeous Radio. And one more time before we close, can you tell everybody about yourself? And remember, 3 months in advance.
Yes, I'm Eric Rohn, and my company is R&B Painting, And my slogan is guaranteed quality service. And you can log on to the web at www.rnb-painting.com.
Okay, say that one more time for everybody to hear it.
Yes, I'm Eric Rome from R&B Painting, and you can log on to the web at www.com, and you can also find us on Facebook at R&B Painting.
All right. And it's Late Night Whispers on this gorgeous radio, and I'm Coco. Thank you for enjoying our show, and mwah!